Welcome, everybody, to the Paws Up halftime show. I am Jake Gibson. That's my friend and co host, Kevin Barral, joining me. Before we get into talking about this game, it's been a pretty fun contest so far. Liberty leads 17 to 10. Just want to quickly tell everyone Hurricane Milton's approaching Florida really soon. Thankfully, Miami-Dade County, Broward, Palm Beach, for the most part, looks like we're going to be spared here. But if you're watching in an area that might be directly hit from this hurricane, the Tampa, Fort Myers region, just West Florida in general, just make sure you're safe. Make sure you have essentials that you need because it's expected to get here late Wednesday or just Wednesday in general, Thursday. Could be messy. So if you're in an area that is in danger because of this hurricane, just make sure you're safe and make sure everything's going to be good for you. So with that out of the way, it's a pretty good first half so far, Kevin. FIU's only down 17 to 10 against the undefeated Flames. Start with the defense. I think the defense has looked both good and bad at the same time. When Salter is in the pocket, they're bringing heat on him, and they're looking good that way. But as soon as Salter starts to run, that's when things have sort of collapsed for FIU.
Well, even then, when Salter has ran, FIU's kind of done a good job containing him. I'm actually impressed the way they've played him. 2 sacks already on him, both coming from Travion Barnes. I'm surprised Liberty didn't run the ball a lot earlier in the contest. I mean, they have one of the best running backs in the nation with Quentin Cooley. Already has 92 rushing yards, so they're dominating on the ground with 161 total yards of rushing.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised they didn't do that a lot earlier. But then on the plus side, FIU's kind of honestly they've just been able to contain Liberty a lot on the offensive side of things. And then for FIU offensively, it's been impressive to say the least. I mean, the run game working a little bit better. Liberty definitely has gotten their way on it defensively. That final drive before the half for FIU on that third down call, interesting call.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that Liberty's defensive line could attack you many different ways. Coach Mack was mentioning this during the pregame part of it at FIU, where he was noting that this is a Liberty defensive line that just needs 3 or 4 guys to get to you. I mean, they had like 9 guys lined up there, including safeties and cornerbacks. And I mean, honestly, at that point, you were kind of outmatched, and I'm surprised they ran with Keyshawn there through the middle. Could have ran a fake and maybe a little pop out over there to the side over a little hitch pass or something like a Dean or an Eric Rivers, and it's fine. But overall, I mean, Kewan looks pretty good. I know he's just under 100 yards passing, but so is Salter. So, I mean, Kewan looks pretty damn good at the moment. He's out dueling Caden Salter. Now, given Salter's only thrown the ball 8 times against Kewan's 12, but obviously the playbook definitely looks a little bit more open. They're going after what Liberty's weakness is, which is defending the pass. And, I mean, the FIU has a chance. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, to that end, Jenkins looks pretty good. 7 for 12, 85 yards, no picks, no touchdowns. Dean Patterson has stepped up so far, 56 yards off of 3 carries. That's not that bad. But yeah, I think this game is going to be defined by how well FIU's defense adjusts in the second half and whether they can stop Caden Salter when he starts to scramble. Because, I mean, you and I talked about this in the preview. Whenever FIU's defense has faced a dual threat quarterback historically, it hasn't worked out so well. And I think as the second quarter went on, the defense got more and more gassed. So on that final drive, Salter was able to get some pretty good runs. One of them was taken back due to a penalty, and the other one I think he casually ran in. I mean, those last few yards, he just waltzed in there. So not the best look, but yeah, hopefully FIU's defense can just stop the run. If they do that, then there's not much Liberty can really do at this point.
Yeah, and you also have to give credit to FIU. I mean, how do I mention this? Yeah, FIU's gotten a little bit lucky. They've gotten bailed out a couple times. To be fair with you, I mean,
7 penalties on the Flames.
7 penalties in just the first half, which cost Liberty 70 yards. That last one, definitely questionable with that blindside block. I think it was more of a side block, but either way, Liberty scored on that same drive. But the other thing I've noticed is special teams for both teams have been pretty dang good. I mean, some big returns from Saquon Pierre you had there. I believe Reese was the other one for Liberty. I mean, they've had some big moments in these games, at least on the kickoffs. So we'll see what happens. I think there needs to be adjustments on both sides of the ball, honestly. FIU is doing a great job attacking these Liberty cornerbacks, which aren't the greatest. So definitely a plus for FIU there. Kewan definitely has to keep attacking Eric Rivers and Dean Patterson. And then, I mean, the run game needs to get established soon enough. It looks all right. I mean, 3 attempts for 20 yards for Joseph, and then Owens has 18 rushing yards for 18 rushing yards on 5 attempts. But they need to establish it a little bit more. The offensive line looked pretty good.
They
I
did.
don't think Keyone was sacked at all, actually.
Let me check.
And their defense, no, he was not. And then their defense, Liberty's defense has been a little bit lackluster. So FIU just needs to come out of the half right here and take a big lead. I mean, they have a shot to do it. So let's see what happens.
Travion Barnes already putting his name on this game. 8 total tackles, 5 solo, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. He's already having a monster game, and we're just getting going here in this contest. I'm really excited to see how he pops off in the second half. Let's talk a bit about that touchdown for FIU. It was a wild ending to an otherwise really great drive for FIU. I believe it was Lexington Joseph running into the end zone, gets the ball fumbled, but Dean Patterson was right there. What does Booger McFarland say? Johnny on the spot. He was right there, corrals the ball, and it's ruled a touchdown. My heart froze there for a second, Kevin. My heart froze, but thankfully Dino was right there.
Funny enough, I don't know what screen I had open, but I didn't have the screen open on there for that moment. So I just hear foam, and I'm like, oh boy. And I just hear that the FIU recovered. I was like, all right. It was pretty funny, though, because Flex with the run, and then unfortunately he didn't get the touchdown. I think that would have been like his third or fourth of the season.
Yeah.
Dean continues to set his career high with touchdowns with his third of the season. So
definitely not.
I mean, he's looked good nonetheless with the 56 receiving yards on three receptions. And then FIU could have had another one there. Keyone overthrew it to Eric Rivers. Feels like that just happens once a game, unfortunately. But overall, I mean, the offense looks good. Josiah Meeman's back in there. They're using a pretty decent amount of tight end usage with Meeman and Ferguson. They're kind of splitting the reps. So we'll see. I mean, FIU looks pretty good for the most part. Honestly, I think this is best case scenario, just how they could have looked coming out of this game. Again, Liberty hasn't played in about 17 days, so definitely some rust to get off. But they've been able to get the rust off, and they're using Quentin Cooley, Caden Salter, and Billy Lucas to run the ball, and it's working. And FIU really needs to adjust quickly.
No Sibley so far for Liberty. They're not utilizing Trayon Sibley, to my knowledge, Kevin, despite being the leading back coming into this.
He had that catch. He had that one catch in that final drive that ended up being overturned because there was an incompletion. I believe that was him. So
quiet day for him, which you gotta love that, you know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, Liberty's attacking on the ground. Caden Salter only has 62 passing yards. He only has 4 completions. FIU has done a good job neutralizing Salter in terms of the pass game. And honestly, again, we talk about Salter on the ground, but he only has 54 rushing yards speaks for itself.
That ain't too bad.
I mean, compared to what he did last year against FIU, you'll take that any day of the week.
True.
Yeah, I mean, that was only his first rushing touchdown of the season, so it just shows how little Salter has been going on the ground this season. A lot more on the air for him, but FIU doing a good job forcing the run, which you don't want to see because Liberty's so good at running it. But at the same time, if they come out of the second half and they kind of maybe force to pass a little bit more, and you have your good cornerbacks out there, maybe you'll have some more success. But FIU needs to come out of this half right now and score. They're getting the ball in the second half. They need to score right here. I mean, if it's a field goal, if it's anything, you need to score. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. Keyone has looked good. He needs to keep it up because he's looked really good. He's taking some big shots down the field, and that's something that this FIU offense really hasn't done in a while. And I'm glad that playbook is getting opened up as much as it is.
Speaking of big shots, there was we talked about how this has been kind of a flag-heavy game so far, but one flag that we wish was called that wasn't. Coach McIntyre was rightfully pissed about it, was that hit on, I believe, Dean Patterson on the off the punt return, which not called. It was a clear hit. He was still looking for the ball, which sailed behind him, and no flag was called for. I mean, that's the kind of play hit where, you know, a player can get injured. Thankfully, I don't think Dean was, but Mike McIntyre was irate on the sidelines, which, I mean, both coaches have looked pissed so far today with some of these calls.
I mean, Liberty was still pleading that blindside blocking call even after the Salter touchdown. So, I mean, it shows you know, how these calls have gone both ways. FIU, I believe, just 2 penalties. I want to say 2. One penalty. It was one penalty, which I believe
it was that pass interference on the final drive.
Interference, which it was an interesting call. And I think there was another one that should have been called there on.
It was on Blades, right?
It was on Blades. And there was another one. I believe there was on an overthrow that Keyone had with Rivers. I kind of think that was a PI. I mean, good. I guess it was a good no call at the same time, but I think that could have gone either way.
So far, so good for FIU, but obviously, it's tough to it's tough to keep Liberty at bay, especially because Liberty's a really good second half team. They've proven that so far this season. Liberty has scored the majority of their points and have cruised to wins coming off of their performance in the second half on both offense and defense. If FIU can continue what they're doing on defense, which is putting heat on Salter when he's on the pocket, and maybe adjust, work on that rush defense a little bit more. I don't know. There's a good shot for this Panthers team. They're already looking better than I think a lot of people across the country would have expected them to look.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. I mean, right before the kickoff, I believe it was like a 17-point underdog for FIU, and right now they are. I want to say they're covering, or
what? Oh yeah, they're covering.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So I can't bet. So that just shows you how little I know about this stuff. But
I mean, yeah, so far if you took FIU money line, you're feeling pretty good. But like I said, Liberty, one of the scariest group of 5 teams there is in the second half. Specifically, that's when they get their work done, and we'll see what they come out here.
Well, funny enough, I know someone who took FIU money line. I think the first half of action, and cashed out. So
hey, good on him. Good. That's got to be a nice payday, even if it's just the first half. So
yeah, exactly.
Speaking of shots, the Florida Panthers, the championship winning Florida Panthers, looking pretty good so far in their game against Boston. Just wanted to point that out there. All right, we'll leave you there. FIU is not leading, but they're in this game. Liberty leads 17-10. Mark it down. FIU was winning this game. At some point, they were up 10-3. They were winning.
They should have stopped the count right there.
Stop the count. All right. Well, we'll see you post game. Your score right now: Liberty 17, FIU 10. FIU will receive the second half kickoff, like you mentioned, Kevin. So we'll see you post game. Make sure you're safe from this hurricane that's going to be coming soon. We're used to them, so just make sure you're good, and then Paws up.
Paws up, baby.